Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, and the love and support you guys share with me. From the Cora, I appreciate you. Well, to get right into the topic on hand, today I'm gonna take off with what I had promised you guys I was gonna start doing, which is profiles, mainly on key figures that a lot of people have never heard of, but in its time they were more important than what you see on the news and stuff like that. At least out here in more so in Sinaloa, right? That even though I'm from California, it's where my family's involved at, right? Nevertheless, I want to start off right. I want to start putting it into a different format. So eventually they will go on the other channel and just keep the channel to where it's been, right? But today I want to touch on the founder, right? And it's not my opinion, it's from a lot of people out here, right? Everything we come to know about the narco culture out in Mexico, from A to B to C, came out this man, right? At one point, and that includes the way routes are handled, avenues, expansion, and of course, we can't leave out what we see nowadays, right? Which is climbing the ladder by stepping on your boss or betraying. It became a part of Mexico, right? Or at least the culture out here. It's a common thing, to snitch, to set up, even to yourself take the life from that one that brings you in and trusts you, right? But anyways, I don't wanna disguise myself from the topic, right? We'll try to make it as short as possible. I know not many like profiles, right? But anyways, I want to touch on El León de la Sierra, or as many might know him, Don Pedro, right? Now, this is before I even started coming out here to visit my family, right? This is my grandpa's era, you could say. And first and foremost, this man, in my opinion, and those that I know, there hasn't been another one like him, right? A lot of people give credit to Gallardo, but everyone you can think of from the nautical culture or history came out of this individual. We're talking about he helped start Don Neto. Amado, well, he started with Gallardo. You could say not him either, but Güero Palma, El Mayo, you know, all those you can think of, literally, from out here, including El Chapo. I don't know if a lot of people know, but El Chapo's known, for when he started his, you could say, getting to know the world. It wasn't through his knowledge of coding goma or planning mota or whatever, right? He started off selling oranges and washing cars. And this is the man. He was washing his cars off, right? It's how they opened that glimpse into this world for him, per se, right? Nevertheless, to touch up shortly on him, a lot of people, I'll say everyone, have different stories where he comes from, right? A lot of people say that from here, from Abiraguato, and some others say that he's from Durango. But the fact is, he's from Triángulo Dorado, right? Which is consists of the Sierra of Sinaloa, Durango, and Chihuahua. And to pinpoint a little bit there was none of that before this individual. Well, I'll take that back. I'm pretty sure there was somewhat of a movement, but to the extent this person took it, no. You see, he started off using his own vehicle and driving grass to the line, right? And it's when he come to realize the power of Amapola. He's literally the one that put Amapola out there the way that it's out here, right now. Now there's more chemicals and stuff, so you know, but it's still used for well, I don't need to get technical with it, but more so it's used for, at least in the world, right? It's used for goma, right? Some for soda, and some will flip it, turn it into chicharron, right? And get it out to where it needs to. But if you're from out here, you know real well that this individual, at the time where that sierra was dry, right? He figured out that it grows. It's when he literally put the foundation for the Triángulo Dorado. He had it all packed with the plan, right? And it started lining up what we see today: route, pipelines, to the point that, in one sense, he was known to be in Europe, right? Doing wiggles. The most famous part of him is that, now it's a common thing, right? You see certain cartels, as people know them, right? Keep in mind, this is all before none of that existed. There was no such thing, right? As cartels, it was families. And that wasn't even out there like that, right? Families came after. And, but he started co-working with a real famous cat, right? Now I can't go into details of the Italian mafia because I don't know enough. It's just out my realm. But Bugsy from the Italian mob and Lucky, I guess they were real big figures in them era, and they were partners with this individual, right? El León de la Sierra, for the reason of the founding of Triángulo Dorado is why they call him El León de la Sierra. Again, Rafael, Miguel Gallardo, all of them, they were his workers to one sense or another, right? The only one that came later would have been Azul. as you guys would hear why, right? Now, keep in mind, this is the angle from my family and what I've heard, right? Again, it's before my times. But, anyways, within time, power starts moving cars, right? And he sent no neto, you know, to Juarez, Sonora. He wanted to open line. He started opening routes of what we see now, which is now territories, cartels, right? And he wanted to stay in the Sierra. His invasions was never to do a city type of thing, right? But that's the thing. You could have Porsche or students, right? But the students always going to try to overclass the teacher. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, and it's what happened with Gallardo and Caro, right? They decided to go into a big city like Guadalajara, and they went out to Rome. They started paying juras. For those that know a little bit of history of that sense of Guadalajara, they were so into it with the Federicos that they literally had legal IDs and batches of Federal, right? In case they ever got stopped. That's when Azul comes into play. He had a lot of weight when it came to the Federales. Is when it played out to what we came to learn, right? Federales being so much into or united with the works of the Wiggles in Mexico. But anyways, a lot of people didn't really like El Leon keeping his power. You know, the most famous saying is they were gonna cut the melena off the Leon, right? Now, for those that want to go into his corridos and stuff like that, I have put out many times my abuelo's name, family's name. My grandpa was military and he left it to start off with this individual, right? So, of course, what have came down the pipe, at least, it's curable. I believe it because it comes straight from someone that was there, right? Not all that he said, she said throughout Culiacan. Anyways, the argument started with Gallardo and Azul most over because he didn't want to be going into cities. He wanted to maintain La Sierra. That's why he had partners like the Italians and other people, right? That did all the move when it came to the states and stuff like that, right? And he was trying to set pointers in different states here in Mexico because he was about the mountains, right? And nevertheless, power blocks minds, right? Money more so than anything. And one night, El Día del Grito, here in Culiacan, for those that are from here or Sinaloa, you guys know where the Y's at, right? I sure know real good where it's at, right? It's where through my grandpa at 1993. But nevertheless, on this day is when They were leaving El Grito, I guess, and they got stopped right by federales. Remember, one of his students had the federales sewed up because he had under his wing Azul, which at the moment he was in charge of everything when it came to these individuals, right? And he had one of them fake placas and IDs and stuff. So what it said is he tried to present himself, but it was already a setup, right? You see, Gallardo knew he was never gonna grow with Don Pedro still around, so he used government, as we tend to see nowadays, right? Ain't no faction out here does anything without government. And anyways, when they realized it was a setup, I guess they got into it, right? It went up with them, and they would eventually all get killed. You know, at least the version that my family tells, right? Now other versions is they got stopped, they got okey doke, they got put down on their knees, and they got domed. Again, is before my times, right? And that would open the door for Gallardo, Rafael, his uncle, and it would eventually open the door for Chapo knowing them, start being a gatillero with El Güero, Amado coming into the picture, and many other names, right? Again, I'm gonna do these profiles and touch on people that they're important if you want to really sit down and think, right? Not because of what they did, because they laid a foundation of what we see today. You know, a lot of people speak about Mexico's a whole different animal. Yeah, oh, a way different animal. Believe me, everyone from the outside looking in just sees the surface, right? But I want to circle around on those that were key players to make it to what the animal is nowadays, right? That's how we do so. Again, this started, he went from opening routes, using trucks, people, what we see now, to infiltrate the Italian mafia, right? And of course, they don't want to talk about it, but he infiltrated the government of the States at the time. It was the end of World War II. The opios were requirement because of the war. That's how the Triángulo Dorado came the point blank area of the world of Amapola. It wasn't because of what he sold, it was because of the need that the states had for it. But anyways, I'll conclude this one here. You know, these are profiles. I want to put them out cut and dry and to the point. I hope I made sense without, getting coscorrones later. But my love, stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Buenas noches.